Hi, how you doing? Welcome back to Smoking Cheltenham. I hope you're well. I hope you had a nice weekend, and I hope you found a few winners there. Right, on the good side, we're getting this out on Tuesday, which I like more. On the bad side, I've got a window of 45 minutes that I cannot go over because got to take lad to college, and I know what I'm like for rambling, and we've got quite a bit to get through. So I've got my work cut out here, knowing me. But I'll do my best. Um, yeah, we just all we're going to do. We're just going to look back at the racing over the weekend. I'll just give my thoughts on that, and I've got a 20 to 1 selection for Cheltenham, which will come at the end of the video. So if you don't like listening to me ramble and you just want the selection, the wonders of YouTube, you can just fast forward me, can't you? I guess I won't blame you. Right then, we best crack on. Okay, so we're going back to Wednesday. Haydock, it was good to soft on the hurdles track. 2 mile introductory hurdle. My Daddy Paddy beat nothing really by 7 lengths. Okay, I like him. I do like this horse. Um, it's Dan into it, and he's like the emerging force, isn't he? You know, this side of the Irish Sea to take on Willie at Cheltenham. You know, year before last, he had plenty of winners, didn't he? Last year, he took out the Turners, didn't he? Um, and success kind of breeds success, you know. So I wouldn't be surprised if Dan took out one of the novice hurdles again this year. He's gone off at 1 to 5 here though, and he's beat nothing. We've learnt nothing new about him, and he's been sort of slashed really from eights into fives. Okay, so yeah, I don't know what we were expecting him to do at 1 to 5 to sort of warrant that, but you know, we know what these bookies are like, don't we? Um, I do really like the horse though, and I think he's a genuine contender. I like, it was impressive. Um, like I say, I won't be rushing. I turned my nose up at the eights, didn't I? And so I'm not going to be rushing in at the fives. Like I say, I've got a feeling even if everything goes well for him and he gets there unbeaten, I'd imagine he'll probably be second favourite on the day. I said I'd imagine he'd be going off around 7 to 2. Maybe, you know, I've overestimated that a bit. Maybe he could be going off more like 5 to 2. But now we're looking at like, would you want to take fives now or 5 to 2 on the day? I'm fairly sure you'd be getting 5 to 2 on the day, and that's if everything goes well for him. He may come like he's going to the Grade One at Christmas, the Thornby, I think, at Aintree. We'll learn a lot more about him there, and I guess if he's impressive there, you may see 7 to 4 or something ante-post. But I think then when like Willie's main contenders emerge, I think you'll see that price ease out a little bit. So I think you'd be getting. I think you'd be safe to get 5 to 2 on the day, and as such, I mean, he could yet blow out at Aintree, like. So I don't like the price, but I like the horse. Okay, and I do think he could be a big player in the Supreme. Okay. Friday, Sandown. It was soft, heavy places on the hurdles track. It was 2.5 mile Grade Two winter novice hurdle. No drama this end. Be the Blue Room 5 lengths. Yeah, another impressive novice winner here. This were a Grade Two, so he's beat ultimately he's beat some decent handicappers here, I'd say. Um, but yeah, he's achieved more than my daddy Paddy's. Took out 2 Grade Twos. He's been slashed into 13-2 now for the Turners. They were really impressive. I really like this horse, and this could be the one that Paul's been searching for. Like, this could be the horse to kind of catapult him back into the big time, I guess. I just don't see it being this season, though. For me, he's like a Browns horse. I think he'll be a big Browns horse for next season. I just might be wrong about him, but I think he's going to be like he could be like a Grade 1 3 mile chaser down the line, and as such, I just don't think he's going to have the boot for a Turners. Basically, he were impressive here though. If we're sort of comparing these two, I'd say for me, My Daddy Paddy's more likely to win at Cheltenham, but at the same time, he's more likely to just bomb out completely. I think this fella's more solid. He's going to run a race, and I think he can hit the frame. I don't see him bombing out. I can see him hitting the frame. I just don't see him winning it, if that makes sense. Okay. So these are just my own thoughts. I do like him though. Saturday then, Navan, soft heavy, 2 mile maiden hurdle, Saint Bacco beat Lazard de Star, nearly 4 here, and it was a good distance, 18 length back to the third. Could be nice, this horse. I'm just not quite sure yet. We'll just I think he's got Grade 1 entry for Leopardstown at Christmas. I'm sure he'll have plenty entered for that, and we'll know more next time. He went off odds on here, so he's held in some regard. The fourth horse from this race I thought was interesting, Sense of Occasion. I thought shaped nicely for Henry, who's out of form at the minute, and JP horse, he looks like a possible handicap project for the next couple of runs, and maybe in the spring in a handicap somewhere like Punchestown or something. He's just one to keep an eye on, I think. Sense of Occasion. In the next 2 mile maiden, Road Exile beat Copacabana. Same comments apply. I mean, these could be nice sort of Grade 1 types, or they may be a bit below. We just don't really know yet. We'll learn more next time. Copacabana's he's all over a 3 mile chaser of the future. He should make a nice staying chaser. Probably Road Exile's probably a similar kind of type. I'd say fitness probably played its part here as well. Right. 2.5 mile, Grade 2, Navan Novice hurdle. Dr. Steenberg beat The Devil You Know, best part of 5 lengths. All these 3 novice races I was just a bit meh about. I'm not saying, these could develop into Cheltenham contenders, but none of them kind of blew me away. I'm not saying they can't make up into Cheltenham contenders, and the winner here could easily make up into a big Albert Bartlett type, but I just won't be nailing my colours to any of these masks just yet. The winner, he proved he's kind of adaptable ground wise. Port Authority, Gordon had plenty to choose from for this race, and Port Authority seemed to be his chosen one, like the one Jack was on. He picked up, he ran badly here, but he picked up a graze and reportedly blowing hard after the race. So if you did like him before, he's probably worth another chance. But yeah, I'm a bit meh about all these. Nothing like really hit me. Possibly the most significant thing to take from it is the runner up here in this grade two, the Devil you know, beat less than 5 here. He couldn't get within 10 of Dr. Demesnil. He could be something, this Dr. Demesnil, he could be, but we don't know yet, do we? We could possibly see him in that maiden hurdle at Leopardstown on the 26th. We'll see, I'm sure Willie's got a lot of options there, but yeah. And if we do see him there, I mean, he's 8-1, and we haven't seen him over hurdles yet, you know. So the front end of the markets is really poor, you know. It's getting worse, and it's year on year, and it's poor. The front end of the markets, you know, 8-1, we're not seeing him yet. And just bear in mind with this horse, if you're a big fan of him, you know, last season, Kopek, you know, plenty, me included, thought he were going to go to Turners at one stage, and he ended up in the Supreme. The year before, Ballymore, Ballyburn could have gone either way, the Ballymore or the Supreme. I was convinced he were going Supreme, you know, at one stage, and he went Ballymore. So, you know, he's reportedly a stayer. He won the 2-3 bumper, but then, you know, Willie's taken out the sort of Supreme with staying types before, like, you know, Appreciate It and stuff. So you just don't know. He could go either way yet. So when we do see him, if he does look exciting, just bear that in mind. Like, you know, unless Willie comes out and says this is my turn as horse, then fine. But I'd suggest it would be more likely. Yeah, he looks a Turner's type, but he's got a nice bit of speed as well, and, you know, we could go either way or something like that, something along them lines. But anyway, yeah, I mean, he didn't even run, but that would maybe something to note. You know, the Devil, you know, yeah, he's progressing nicely. He's a bit more experienced now, and, you know, yeah, he couldn't get near Dr. Tomesnell. He got closer in this. Right, 3 mile, 1.5 furlong handicap hurdle. Apologies for the pronunciation of this. I'm sure I butchered it, like, but Buckale Bot, Ted Walsh. I thought this were a promising return to hurdles against, you know, he went down by under 10 lengths to 2 race fit rivals. I liked this horse from last season. This were one of my better days last season, one of my best days really. He landed a big gamble at Fairyhouse, back from 25s into 7-2. Not much was said about it at the time, you know, in the media, but I noticed anyway, like, you know, he did me a big favour that day. He had first time blinkers on that day. They seemed to bring out the improvement. He were like progressive, started at a lowly level in novice handicap hurdles, and he were progressive there. Then just lost his way last season. The application of first time blinkers seemed to bring about a lot of improvement. It's kind of a big cumbersome thing, you know. You'd think he'd make a good chaser, but he's not the best sort of leopard, if you like. But yeah, for Ted Walsh, I thought this were a nice return to action. He may have another pot in him this season. One to keep an eye on, I think. 2 mile, 4.5 furlong listed Foxrock Handicap Chase. This is often a decent race, and it were again this year. Down memory lane was impressive here. Well backed 7s the night before into 7-2. He goes best fresh. May not go on from this. You know, this I'd say were the day. Others to note from this race: in the pocket, very disappointing. Reportedly sort an overreach. I know the stable's out of form. If Henry can get this horse on song, he would look a nice type for a big handicap pot. even like the Jack Richards type. He's got festival form, but he is 8 now, turning 9. Very lightly raced. He's had a lot of issues, hasn't he? Riddled with ability, but how much of that he retains now is hard to know. Back to Normal, one of our favourites. Yeah, I kind of thought this looked a stepping stone for him on the way to maybe that big Paddy Power 3 mile handicap at Christmas at Leopardstown. So, as such, I was hoping he'd run a nice sort of race and stay on into never near a 5th, beaten 12 lengths, something like that, But no, he was disappointing. He pulled up here. I think decent ground's important to him, and his 2 comeback runs have been on soft heavy. All his best forms on like good to yielding, so you could see a different horse on good to yielding. He did have, his season were cut short by injury, weren't it, last season? And it's difficult to know if he's the horse he was. He gave him a spin over hurdles. He were there 2 out, and then sort of dropped out of contention, and he pulled up here. So it's just difficult to know if he retains all that ability. If he'd ran a really nice race, I'd have been really keen on him for the Paddy Power. Also, Gavin's horses, he's had a few winners in the last week, but there's still plenty that aren't that are disappointing a bit. So he's showing signs of coming back. He more than likely will be fully back in the groove in the next week or 2, but just like this past week, he's still had a number of horses probably probably run below, despite having a couple of winners, a few winners there. I'd have a bit of change on him if he runs in that Paddy Power at Christmas, but I guess it will be hard to be very confident there, so he may not end up being my main selection in that race, but I'll certainly be having a little bit on him anyway if he turns up. But yeah, a difficult one to sort of trust just at the minute, I guess. But yeah, you could see a different horse on better ground. 2.5 mile beginners, Predators Gold beat Slade Steel a length and a half here. Another 10 lengths back in third to Wingman. Winners had plenty of Grade 1 novice hurdle form, been off for 18 months, he's a classy sort of staying chaser in the making. Wouldn't be like an ante-post proposition given his sort of profile. More interest to me really were the runner-up Slade Steel, swinging, turning for home, jumping. Plenty of people made a lot of his jumping last season. Weren't really sure about it. He looked to jump kind of between okay and fine here, I'd say. In hindsight, his form from last season's pretty decent, yeah, he was swinging, turning in. By the second he'd been headed, it would kind of run befitting a horse from a stable out of form. He stayed on all right, but from 3 out to the line, 3 out, he looked the winner. And in amount of strides, he didn't. He stayed on all right, he kept at it, but I think he can be a bit better than this. He's rated 147 and he's a supreme winner. He would be top of my shortlist at the minute for that Jack Richards, that 2.5 mile novice handicap chase. Soft ground though could be important to him, so that's something to bear in mind. Henry's got previous in that race, and we A+ tarred, but yeah, winning festival form in the Supreme, that Jack Richards, yeah, he could be good for that. just a general thing. I just want to talk about market signals a little bit. Generally, it's not something I use much, I guess, because I kind of, my routine were looking through the entries, marking down what I liked, and then sort of getting the best early prices I could, if any, I thought were like value. Things change, it gets harder to get on, doesn't it? But certainly if you're more like kind of race to race punter, maybe a bit more casual, then market signals, you can sort of bring that into your armoury more, can't you? I try not to, I mean, there were a few times last season my selection, my bet had drift out wildly, and I had a small top up. It's probably not advisable, but 3 times last season it came in for me. That, but that's probably generally they can be quite revealing. If you're old enough to remember Big Mac there on the Channel 4 racing, he'd had a birthday at Navan on Saturday. So just for example, right, maiden hurdle, St Bacco went off odds on, very strong in the market there. Gordon's horse was strong in the market as second favourite, and them two dominated. Conversely, in the next maiden hurdle, Copacabana was very weak there and drifted all the way out to sort of 100 to 30. I think he was like sort of 6 to 4 on the early shows. The market suggested he were going to need this, and watching him, that were reflected in the race. He sort of came there to win the race, and I'd say he'll come on plenty for that. He's a nice horse going forward, but the market told you this was maybe not the day. 3 mile 1.5 furlong handicap hurdle, Gringo Debrel, Gordon Elliott. He's been dominating the last few weeks in Ireland, hasn't he? This is his time of year. I think this year he's done things just slightly differently as well. He's got such an edge at Down Royal that I think he's left a bit more on them, so they've improved a bit more from Down Royal than they normally would. So these Fairy House last week and these Navan meetings, is dominating them more to a higher degree maybe than he were previously. So that's something to bear in mind going forward. But yeah, Gordon Elliott, Gringo Debrel, owners sponsored the race, supported from 16s into 6s. The Foxrock Handicap Chase, again, Gordon Elliott's pair here, down memory lane, supported 7s the night before into 7 to 2. Search for Glory, plenty of double figures around, 14s the night before into 5s. The forecast paid over 20 to 1, they dominated the finish there. In the beginners, Predators Gold, he sent, 18 months off the track, went off 11 to 2. He was solid, a horse with his profile you might expect to be quite weak in the market, particularly coming from like Willies who tend to come on a lot for the run. But no, he was really solid there. I mean, these horses have missed out that have been well supported and gone down, but these, it's worth noting. And even the bumper there with No Limit, I think was maybe put in, I'm not sure, I think maybe odds on, or he generally drifted out anyway to an SP of 15 to 8, well regarded from Gordon Stable and unplaced here. A little like Grange Clare Park the week before at Fairy House, really highly regarded, very weak in the market, and yeah, he got beat. The winner, by the way, in this race, Charismatic Kid, was supported from 25s into 4s for just a small stable. Colm Ryan, he's only a handful of horses there, So there you go. If you sort of punt in race to race, it is if you've got an idea in your head of what sort of prices should be, and for horses more solid or being well backed, and it's worth looking into. It's maybe something as it becomes harder to get on earlier, we're all going to end up like SP Betfair type punters, are we? And maybe this is something that'll come into my way of thinking a little bit more. I don't, like I say, I tend to have my mind made up, so I don't take these things into account so much. But I'm aware of them, and maybe that's something that maybe help one or two of you out there. Colin Bryan, yeah, he's only got an handful of horses. He's 2 from 6. This is the second bumper he's taken out in the last 12 months. He landed a nice touch here. He's saddled Karate Kid to win a Leopardstown last Christmas. Maybe a small stable to keep an eye on in these bumpers. They clearly knew they had something here, Right then, on to how we're doing for time. Wow, 20 minutes. Right, come on, Steve. Sandown, good to soft in places on the chase track. 2 mile grade 1, Henry VIII novice chase. The Lambert beat Be Aware, 9.5 here. Do you know what? This horse actually went up in my estimations. First time I saw him at Kempton, very taken with his debut. I liked him for the Triumph. He was my selection. Stung me there. We said at the time we thought he was the best horse in the race, and maybe inexperience kind of caught him out there. Then he went to Punchestown. He took it out, but he just looked like a stayer. They seemed to ride him for stamina. Pardon me. First time out at Exeter, jumped a bit slow and deliberate. I thought he looks a nice horse up in trip. But he went up in my estimations because if you take a step back and look at this horse, he's only a 4-year-old and he's open to tons of improvement. He's only just starting out, really. Arkle, I said before, I think he won't see which way Kopek goes in an Arkle, and I maintain that. I think Kopek's too fast for this lad. This lad looks like he'd be exciting going out in trip, although I'm sure he's capable of high class 2 mile form, but Kopek's just a rocket, isn't he? He was a bit slow. He lost ground at the first 4 fences here, and then he sort of got into a bit of a rhythm. I don't like him so much for the Arkle, I don't, but like the horse himself has sort of gone up in my estimations. I think he's a cracking prospect going forward, I think. The markets for Cheltenham, on the front end of the markets, are a joke. They are. Look at the Arkle betting here. This is best prices you can get. 2's Kopek, 5-2 the Lambert, 6's Romeo. Some bookies you're looking 2-1, 2-1, and 4-1. The race. The race isn't tomorrow, is it? We're talking ante-post here. If they don't run, you don't get your money back, and there's a lot that can go wrong, isn't they? They're priced up like they're running tomorrow. It's wrong. As much as I think 2-1 for Kopek might look all right after Christmas. Might actually not be too bad, but yeah, the prices, the front end of the markets are poor, really poor. 2 mile grade 1, Tingle Creek. Ilete Tomps beat Jambon, 9 here. Ludesud a further 9 lengths back in 3rd. Ilete Tomps, he slipped through on the inside into turning for home, and the race was over. Left his rivals for dust. He's 7 turning 8. He's 7 from 9 over fences. His 2 defeats. He went down by 5.5 to Gaelic Warrior in the grade 1 at Limerick at Christmas. 2.5 mile heavy, and a 13.5 length 3rd to Gaelic Warrior in an Arkle on sort of soft heavy. I don't think this fellow will get beat before Cheltenham, possibly not after, although I think Willie had this horse bang on for this. As I mentioned before, one of the things that I thought made him like a solid selection for this race were the fact that Willie had this horse in early to get him bang on for this. This were a big target for him, and I think we saw that. So generally, Willie's improved run to run to run. I don't think this fellow will improve fitness wise much anyway, as much as he may still like progress just naturally. He's sort of coming into his prime now, isn't he? Yeah, so I kind of don't think we'll see him better than this all season, if you know what I mean. Cheltenham's a question mark for him. He's 11-4 now. He's none from 3 at Cheltenham. In the Triumph, he came 5th at 12, beat nearly 9 lengths by Vauban. He was very keen that day, though, so you could sort of forgive him that. Hood were applied the season after. Season after, he ran in the Supreme, got beat 9 by Marine Nationale, 5th of 14. Before that, he won the Grade 1 at Leopardstown. He didn't jump great in the Supreme. I watched the race and I watched it back, and he got in very tight to the 2 downhill flights, but finished off all right. But they just put him on a back foot. He's jumping downhill there. In the Arkle, before the Arkle, he took out the Irish Arkle at the DRF. He beat Founder 50 a neck there. He finished around 5 lengths behind that horse in the Arkle. He didn't jump the 2 ditches well. He made mistakes at both ditches, and again the downhill fence he got a little tight in. Say he took out Grade 1s either side of this. His Cheltenham form was definitely below, so he's going to be hot favourite, I think, for this. Top price 11-4. He could go in there odds on. I think with that Cheltenham record, I'm going to have to be against him. I think, But he was brilliant here. He were. And, he's going to take some beating for the rest of the season. Right, 15 minutes. On to Sunday then. Cook. It was soft on the chase course. 2 mile, 1 Grade 2 mares, Novice chase. Carla Conti beat Cargeese 16. Carla Conti, she left Cargeese for dust on the approach to 3 out. This were really impressive. She's taken really well to chasing, and she's a better chaser than she were a hurdler, I'd say. She were rated 140 over hurdles. I think watching her, she may be, you're guessing, aren't you? But she could be at least kind of £10 better over fences, which would make her 150 and kind of puts her in the mix with these horses in the mare's chase. Dino Blue still sets the standard there on ratings. She's rated 159. Spindlebury's 150, only by night 148. So if you think she's improved maybe £10 for fences, it puts her in the sort of ballpark with them horses. She's into 7-1 now, and it's worth bearing in mind maybe she disappointed last year at Cheltenham. She was 7th of 10, beat 18 lengths, and she ran poorly at Punchestown after as well. Just a question mark if she's going to hold her form into the spring, I'd say, particularly as she's looked so good early season. So that's just something maybe to bear in mind. All the horses there, is worth noting, have shortened up a little bit in the mare's chase, unfortunately, with the news that Brighter Day is ahead, who I did suggest maybe they were missing a trick, didn't I? The way the hurdles division has gone in Ireland, at least, she'd have a big chance in the big 2 mile races there. She may be coming back to hurdles for them. Other champion hurdle news, the New Lion is going for the International at Cheltenham next, skipping Kempton. I think that's bang on the right thing to do. And William Money's picked up another knock, and he's going to be missing Christmas as well, hoping to get him back for the DRF. But, it's not great, is it, from his point of view, going there just off of one run. Right, sorry, we do have to fly through this. Cargeese jumped fine, just got tired, I thought, from 3 out. I think she'll come on a lot for this and leave this run behind. She were 152 incidentally over hurdles. I just find it hard to know what the plans are with her. I'd have thought the mare's chase would stretch her a little bit, particularly on the on the track on Thursday. They've changed it, haven't they? More stamina. No, sorry, that's the mare's hurdle. Yeah, but yeah, he's run on the stiffer track anyway, the mare's chase, and I think that'd kind of stretch her a bit personally. So you'd think maybe Arkle, and maybe she'll end up like a backup there for the Arkle, I'm not sure. But yeah, I think she'll leave this run behind last time. I don't think she did much wrong other than just get really tired, 10 minutes. Not long enough. 2 mile 1 Hilly Way chase. Found a 50 beat Mashborough, length and a half. Found a 50. Yeah, we really like this horse, don't we? We had a bit on him at 50s last year for the champion. He's kind of like a grade 2 horse, but if it came up, it came up decent ground last year at Cheltenham, didn't suit him. It was just all a bit too quick for him. If it came up like soft heavy, he'd have a squeak. He would, Mashborough, I didn't have a bet in this race, but I got frustrated watching Mashborough, and I ended up getting quite mad at him. I'm like, yeah, I don't know why. He persistently jumped left, didn't he? Between the fences as well, I thought he was all over the place. I thought he was very starey, like, writing him a school report, it'd sound a bit like mine used to, a bit wayward, struggles to focus. Do you know what I'd do with this fella? I'd chuck some headgear on him. I would, after watching him here. He just, to me, he was all over track. Look, despite all that, he's still, nearly won. And, to say we're giving away fitness next time out, he could do all this wrong and he'd turn the form round. He's going to come on usually for the run. He could be impressive at Leopardstown. That should suit him better, going left-handed. And he'll probably win there. Although if he ran against Ilate Tomps, I don't know which way I'd be going. Up in trip, I don't know if that's the answer. He's a big engine in there. He's kind of riddled with talent. Don't be surprised if Willie gets the best out of this horse, and if he does, he's going to be some beast. I had a little look. 6-1 for Cheltenham. He were 8s before the season started. He's done everything wrong here. He's 6s. That's... I keep mentioning prices, but Jesus. I thought, he might be 12s, 14s. I wonder, could I be tempted? Possibly. I'm not saying I would back him at that price just at the minute either. It's not a given. But, Jesus, 6s, surely not. I would. Personally, I'd throw some headgear on him. Chuck some blinkers on him or something and see, if that just channels in him. In the right direction. Lastly, then Huntington, soft, good to soft places, 2.5 mile, grade 2 Peterborough. Chase, Jello beat Edwardstone, best part of 5 here. The winning distance didn't do him justice. He just, he doubled up in this race. Very impressive again. His dynamite round there in a flat right-handed track, not dissimilar to Kempton. Could run a huge race in the King George. He's best priced 10s. Yeah, he's a big contender. I do think that just could be the perfect race for him. He's a contender anyway, for sure. Just looking at this King George betting. Gaelic Warriors 2s. Jankabe's 9-4 now. Jesus, I ummed and ahed at 4s, and I say that It's not tomorrow, this race. Surely you get better than that on the day. Jukebox Man's top price 5s, Jello 10s, Factor Val 12s. Jesus, I don't know if it's something's been said, but if he's priced up like a non-runner, isn't he? But if he were to run, you wouldn't mind a bit of 12s. Banbridge 16s, not sure. Faster Slow 20s looks overpriced. He actually looks a bit of value, I'd suggest, you know. He came third in the John Durkin, should come on for that. Leads me nicely onto our bet, and our bet is Django Bay. We're having a point on him for the Gold Cup at 20s. It's just started getting nibbled in now. Gaelic Warrior is nearly joint favourite now with Gaelic Warrior. Gaelic Warrior's 8s for the Gold Cup. This fella's 20s. I think the discrepancy is too big, albeit Gaelic Warrior's more proven at the trip, I guess. Yeah, I had this bet a little while back, and yeah, I think the time is now to just have a little bit on him at 20s for the Gold Cup. There is risk attached to this, hence the point. You know, a lot depends. It all depends really how he runs in the King George. I think he'll run a big race there. You know, if he's bang there and he sort of fades a bit over the last, then he's going Ryanair, isn't he? Maybe if he just bombs out completely or doesn't run well, Ryanair. For him to go to the Gold Cup, you need him not necessarily to win even, but just like hit the line well. He's got to be doing some good work at the finish there. I think he will. You know, watching this horse last time out, from 2 out over 2.5 for the world, he looks like, you know, he'll be fine at 3 mile. Could improve plenty for it even. I like this because I know the way you're thinking, and for me, I know the way you're thinking isn't going to get outstayed in the Gold Cup. Although I've not put him up here yet, he's like my bet, and I backed him myself. I don't see him getting outstayed in a Gold Cup, but there's different types of Gold Cups, isn't there? And if he gets beat, I think it'll be more because, you know, your sizing John Cutto stars, A plus Tard, your more speedier types. Maybe if the ground comes up decent, I know the way you're thinking, I think has got a mistake in him. So if he gets beat, I think it'll be more under them sort of circumstances, and this could be just the horse there. I think 20 to 1's a fine price for him. If you feel a bit riskier, maybe you'd like a little bit more on the 20s, you know, but it does come with risks attached. Like I say, it could be in the bin after the King George. If King George goes well, you're looking at single figures, you know. Personally, I think I'd make him more like a 12 to 1 chance at the minute, so I do think there is a bit of value in this one. Point Django Bay, Gold Cup 20 to 1. Got like 2 minutes. We're there. We're doing it. Performance of the week. I gave it Ilate Tomps. That were no brainer. Grade 1 Tingle Creek. He smashed the field up, didn't he? I didn't say much about the opposition, to be honest. John Bond should have been trained for King George. He's just not got 2 mile pace anymore, has he? But he could be interesting up in trips still. But you know, Nicky just sometimes it takes a little while before stepping them up in trip, you know, and you feel like, you know, Shishkin maybe sometimes he misses maybe an opportunity there, but yeah, John Bond's not quick enough for 2 mile anymore against this sort of opposition, and Dan's horse there just sort of bounced a little. He's best very fresh, isn't he? So in the end, he's probably not actually beat all that much, but he looked good doing it, didn't he? Gave number 2. I gave it to Lambert. You know, just on the quality of the horse, I think is there. You know, I'm not saying I won't go anywhere near the 5 to 2 for the Arkle. I don't think he'll be winning an Arkle. You know, he may not even place in an Arkle. I'd give him maybe the same sort of chance as Romeo Coolio. Romeo Coolio will outjump this fella, like, you know. And Romeo Coolio's 6s there, so. But he's going to get smashed up at Christmas by Kopek, because Kopek's a rocket. But I just love the horse. I do. I think he's you know, I think we're just scratching the surface with this horse. He's only 4. He's exciting going forward. He is, for the seasons ahead. Number 3, I could give it to any one of 3 or 4. I gave it to No Drama this end just because I like the horse. Again, not for Cheltenham this year for me, but he could be the season after. Definitely, he could. You know, he'd be top of my shortlist at the minute for the Browns the season after, and I can see him hitting the frame in like a Turner's. Okay, right. Did it, 45 minutes. Wow, sorry we kind of raced through that a bit then. It wasn't a slow sort of ramble through, was it? Thanks for your time then. I do appreciate it, and I'll be back. I'll be back soon. Okay, all the best then. Bye.